Does anyone want to tell me how we went from how to learn a language in 90 days? No, how to learn it in 60 days. No, I'm going to learn this in 30 days, in 2 weeks, 7 days. How I learned Spanish in 24 hours. Where are we going? Where is this going? How I learned a language before I even knew I was learning the language is the next video. How to learn it in 20 seconds after speed reading. What are we doing? Slow down. Slow down. We have made videos on this before, but it is so insanely important for you to understand this concept if you truly want to have deep roots with your language learning. Trying to do things rushed over nearly every cognitive endeavor is never going to leave you with a lasting ability to do that skill, period. If you understand this, you'll know where we're going. I don't know how many times in different places where people have referred to language learning as watering a plant, but that is exactly what it is. I know in my discussion with Alexander Arguelles that he discussed this. It is so true, and you will see it. Part of the problem is that you will have a period of time for which you are doing absolutely nothing right. It is a plateau of plateaus, and then you will wake up one day and then boom, you will realize, oh my God, I speak. Oh my God, I can convey this. Oh my God, I don't need the subtitles anymore. All that stuff is going to happen to you, but it doesn't happen by you skipping the first steps, which is watering the plant, making sure that you have good soil, making sure that you have obviously a perfect foundation for you to grow something incredible with. Now, where is this coming from? Now, this is coming from a comment that someone made when they were asking me, what did you do when you realized that studying the German grammar as a beginner was not getting you the gains that you needed? Now, I wasn't only studying the grammar. I was doing all sorts of other things, and I stumbled upon some other comprehensible input and stuff like this, but the majority of my time was spent trying to study grammar. Now, I was trying to speak and trying to communicate past the level where I was at. I could understand a few things. I'd really made kind of a mess of my language learning. I didn't have a proper structure, a proper routine. I didn't really know the direction that I was going. It was a bit of a disaster. Now, what happened though, is that because I realized and at least recognized that this was a shit show, was that I had to stop and reflect. In stopping and reflecting, I realized what I was doing with grammar, which of course you'll find out is that you need to study grammar. It's just the timing of that has to change, all right? So what happened is I slowed down. Now, what does that mean by saying slow down? I mean, I found comprehensible input where they talked like this, and they said things at this rate. Everything they did, ja, hallo, ich bin Will. Was machst du? Wie heißt du? That. I know if that sounds crazy to you and you're thinking, how in God's name could you pay attention to it? At first, it was a bit ridiculous. And the only reason it was a bit ridiculous is because I had already exposed myself in many ways and kind of spent a little bit of time, a few months with the language in that where I could understand exactly what they were saying, even though they were saying it slowly. I had trouble, not necessarily speaking, but conveying my ideas. And so slowing down allowed me to link up all of the grammar study that I had done and to truly hear the language, make sure that my brain wasn't trying to solve things, because that's what happens. When you study grammar, you start to know the rules and you start to look for them everywhere instead of intuitively trying to figure out how and feel the flow of the language. It creates a state that is too analytical. This analytical state is going to hold you from speaking. Now, if you're just trying to be a scholar and just trying to understand words and reading and stuff like that, that is a different subject completely altogether, all right? But if you're trying to communicate, slowing things down and finding things that German news in slow German, all right? And I guess this just turns into also a good German resource here, but the German language has an absolutely unbelievable amount of resources. So if you're ever thinking, I just want to pick a language and I'm kind of interested in these few cultures, if you choose German, they have so many resources that are so good, so many different shows done in this slow German way. Now, what this does for you and your brain is that it allows you to stop trying to compute at 50 minutes. It requires less energy. If I talk like this, you who understand English are like, dude, come on. You can watch this at 2 speed, 3 speed, maybe something like this, right? And try and assimilate everything that's being said to you. Well, you need to flip that around. And people don't use this as a tool or tactic in language learning enough, all right? what they do is they either try to watch the show, they'll try to do different things, but they won't slow things down. One of the really cool things, and I brought stuff, okay? Brought stuff today. Now, the really cool thing that happened is that once I found a few shows, I found a series, found a podcast, and found mini stories. These three things took me from struggling to having was magst du to was wollen wir hier machen? Wollen wir was essen oder was machst du denn später? You know, to speaking, but it's because I slowed down. It's really counterintuitive and stupid, all right? And so once you found those three things, that's you're listening and watching, you need to make sure that you have something like this, all right? Now, some people are really against reading. I get that in our modern day and age, but sorry, it works. And so if you're just looking for something now, these are graded readers. A graded reader is something that has reduced the vocab in order to get an idea across. It wants you to understand with context what's happening. And it's going to repeat these words and make sure that the language is done in a way that's simple. So it was a problem for me because I didn't do this step by step. Obviously, it doesn't matter. At any point, you're going to need to do this. If you hit this intermediate plateau, even the beginner's plateau, which people don't necessarily talk about, where you're just kind of hanging out right down there, then this is something that's going to help you. So if you look at this sentence, now this book, right, Cafe in Berlin, 10 short stories, check it out. I think they have a few of these different ones. It's really cool. We'll link to it right down below because they have them in other languages as well. But if you see, I want you guys to understand the formula for what is happening in this type. And then we'll talk about some of where that comes from and why that's important to you and how you can utilize that. All right? So, mein Vater sagt, die Deutschen spielen gut Fußball. Aber mein Vater spielt nicht Fußball. All right? That's the first two sentences. So, repeating the same verb, repeating the same noun, all right? The same format for the verbs, right? And this is what is allowing you to then go, okay, I got it, right? And now you're thinking, some of you, I already understand that. I know this is perfect like that. No, you don't understand the ability that you're going to get from slowing down and what that looks like, which we'll tell you exactly. Now, this is a very famous book in the Latin-speaking world, all right? Lingua Latina per se illustrata, all right? I don't speak Latin. It's not one of the things that I'm diving into right now, maybe sometime at a later date. I'm really just trying to study Hans Ørberg and his method, his style, right? Because the fact that me, as an English speaker, can pick up the book, having never studied Latin, I can look and say, Roma in Italia est. Italia in Europa est. Graecia in Europa est. All these things are Roma in Italia est. I'm going to guess that a large percentage of you guys who have never studied Italian understood everything that's going on. So what's happening? What is going on here, right? Because you didn't study Latin. How are you getting this? It has links. It's close. It's similar. We're communicating in English now. That means we're kind of cousins here in this world. But regardless, this understanding that you can read something, that you can immerse yourself in a world like this by just having to slow down. The repetition aspect of language learning goes so missed because everyone is trying to go as fast as they possibly can. Duolingo is trying to get you down to the streaks and fast. You go zoom, you can skip and go to the test bar. Everything in our world, everything, literally everything on social media and digital does not want you to have deep learning. It does not want you to build roots. And if you want to learn a language, you have to do that. So you have to slow down. Now, what this looks on a more practical basis, how do I set up my daily routine if I'm going to be incorporating this? Do I need to do this all the time? Is that what you're saying? No, not even remotely what I'm saying. All right. So those are the people who are in our artificial immersion course, of course, know exactly on which day we start having people do something that I find incredible, which is in the mornings when you are doing your comprehensible input. Say you are trying to learn Latin, let's say. You're going to find this Latin story and you're going to have a book like this. And you're going to make sure that you're spending high energy time on assimilating your words like this. Now, once you've done, there will be other exercises from you speaking to doing all this other stuff. You guys can check out the program right down below if you want to do that for your first 30 days or 45 if you're intense. All those people, we've got stuff down, especially those of you that want to just work specifically with me, to have me help you customize things, utilize our resources and the power of our community in order for you to say, I'm going to do this now, all right? So we can help structure that out for you. Once you have done that in the morning, and you really know, I've put in some good work, it's an hour, it's 90 minutes, whatever it is, okay? And then you are done with your day, and you're a bit of, let's say, more low stakes environment, it doesn't really matter, you've eaten dinner, or maybe you're eating something, you're watching something. Here is where you need to make sure that you're actually watching and exposing yourself to the general colloquial speech of your target language, all right? So what's gonna happen is that you have a giant gap right now, especially if you're a beginner or lower intermediate, right? Especially in a language like French, right? Where you hear, je ne sais pas. I've done this before, right? To je sais pas, right? What? Like, how did we get here? So in English, I don't know. Maybe you learned that. Don't know. I don't know, right? And so you're gonna have to bridge that gap. Slowing down is gonna allow you to do that, because the more times you hear and recognize, I don't know, or you hear, don't know, I don't know. When you hear that more, you start to recognize it. When it gets sped up, everyday colloquial speech, you got it. You're gonna hear it, you're gonna recognize it, and then you will start to imitate that yourself. Now, it's great, we've talked about this as well before, if you're working on your pronunciation, or you're gonna worry about your accent, these things should definitely come later. You can still pick them up as you're going along, but you definitely wanna just repeat these words. Have this stuff, say it as you hear it. It's slow. You're gonna have the ability to repeat after everything that they're saying. But you can definitely do this. Bridging that gap will happen really quickly, because if you listen to this stuff slowly, consistently, I'm talking 7 days, 2 weeks, something like this, choosing that stuff and really focusing on it, and then getting this, every day, the slang, the different idioms and all this stuff. If you hear that stuff at a different part of your day, that gap starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and you'll start to notice it. You can just kind of move off some of the slow stuff, moving off of it to stuff that's like somewhere in between, until you're, boom, way up there with the feature film or whatever it is, the speech, the super podcast and all that stuff, all right? So this is a call for you to slow down. Trust me, if you've been working on this for a while, I can get it, but you definitely need to have a look at your methods and definitely need to know. If it's taking too long, quote unquote, too long, you need to make sure and check how much time you're spending in your target language, how much time you're actually using where you actually comprehend the language, and how much time are you doing writing, output, speaking, talking to yourself, how much of that time. Take stock on what you're doing. If you're not doing any of those things and you're not getting that in on a consistent basis, don't know. This is just your standard reminder not to do Duolingo because it sucks. And there's way better things for you to do with your time, especially when you're learning a language. All right, peace out.